I can't get that fired up to the point where I'm bumping coach and it's getting him off balance and stuff.
That's part I love about him. The guy's all in. Just sometimes I have to be the policeman.
The Chiefs' dynasty has thrived on Andy Reid and Travis Kelce's fiery bond, but new heated footage from their September 22nd showdown against the Giants shows cracks deeper than ever. This wasn't just another sideline spat. It's a clash that could shake their legendary partnership to its core. And trust me, it's far worse than fans realize. The latest explosive confrontation. Picture this: MetLife Stadium, Sunday Night Football, a national television audience watching as the defending champions struggled through another sluggish start to their season. The atmosphere was electric, with over 82,000 fans packed into the stadium, but the energy on the Chiefs' sideline told a different story entirely. The Chiefs entered this game with a 0-2 record, their worst start since Andy Reid arrived in Kansas City over a decade ago. The pressure was mounting with each failed drive, each missed opportunity, each moment that reminded everyone watching that this wasn't the same dominant Chiefs team that had captured hearts and championships. Travis Kelce, at 36 years old, and in what many speculate could be his final season, had managed just 6 catches for 45 yards through the first 2 games of the year. These weren't just disappointing statistics. They represented a seismic shift for a player who had redefined the tight end position and become Patrick Mahomes' most trusted target. The frustration was palpable in every aspect of his body language, from his animated gestures during team meetings to his increasingly agitated demeanor on the sideline. Some analysts even suggest his age, and knowing that he is on the decline and can't influence games like he used to during his prime has everything to do with his outburst.
And Kelce's that dude. He knows he's not what he used to be. And because he's not what he used to be, he can't make up for the loss of a Rashee Rice. He can't make up for the loss of a Xavier Worthy.
The game had started with promise, but as the first half wore on, it became increasingly clear that the Chiefs were struggling to find any sort of offensive rhythm. Drive after drive ended in punts, field goals, or worse, with the team managing just 130 yards of total offense in the first half. The Giants' defense, led by coordinator Wink Martindale, was systematically dismantling the Chiefs' attack with a combination of aggressive pass rush and disciplined coverage that left Mahomes looking frustrated and confused. Late in the first half, with the Chiefs trailing and their offense sputtering once again, the tension that had been building finally reached its breaking point. What happened next would be captured by NBC's cameras and instantly become one of the most talked about moments of the entire NFL season. Sources indicate that Kelce was frustrated not just with the play calling, but with his own performance and the team's inability to execute in crucial moments. The tight end began what can only be described as an emotional outburst, his voice rising above the ambient noise of the stadium as he vented his frustrations to anyone within earshot. The immediate reaction from analysts and former players captured the shock of the moment.
It is Travis Kelce. Now, is it toxic, Amina? It is, but it's effective though. And I think this is a sign that frustration is mounting.
But the truth was that nobody had seen this before. Not from Andy Reid, not in this context, and certainly not with this level of physical assertiveness from a coach known for his measured approach to conflict resolution. To truly understand the significance of what happened on that September night, we need to examine the broader context of the Chiefs' early season struggles and the mounting pressure that had been building within the organization. This was a team that had entered the season as defending champions, but found themselves facing questions about their offensive capabilities that hadn't been asked in years. The offense that had once been the gold standard of efficiency and explosiveness was now averaging just 17.5 points per game through their first 2 contests, a precipitous drop that had fans and analysts wondering if the Chiefs' championship window was beginning to close. Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback who had been virtually unflappable throughout his career and who had established himself as one of the most clutch performers in NFL history, was showing signs of the mounting pressure. His completion percentage had dipped to 62.5% through the first 3 games, well below his career standards, and a concerning indicator of timing issues within the passing game. The running game was inconsistent, with Isaiah Pacheco being held under 50 yards in 2 of the first 3 games, forcing the Chiefs to become overly reliant on a passing attack that was clearly struggling to find its identity. For Kelce specifically, the early season struggles represented something far more profound than just statistical shortcomings or temporary growing pains. This was a player who had dominated his position for over a decade, who had been Patrick Mahomes' security blanket through 3 Super Bowl victories, who had redefined what it meant to play tight end in the modern NFL. At 36 years old, with questions swirling about his future and retirement plans, every game felt like it could be part of his farewell tour. The pressure to perform wasn't just about helping his team win games, it was about validating a legendary career and ensuring that his final chapter would be written on his own terms. The personal pressures on Kelce extended far beyond the football field and into realms that few NFL players ever have to navigate. His high-profile relationship with Taylor Swift had thrust him into a level of celebrity that transcended sports entirely, bringing with it a constant media spotlight and scrutiny that affected every aspect of his life. Media obligations, podcast commitments, and the constant attention that comes with dating one of the world's biggest pop stars had some questioning whether his focus remained entirely on football. The pressure to perform wasn't just about winning games anymore, it was about proving that his priorities remained in the right place and that his legendary work ethic hadn't been compromised by his newfound fame. Against the Giants, all of these frustrations, pressures, and concerns finally reached their boiling point in spectacular fashion. The incident occurred in the closing minutes of the first half, after the Chiefs had managed just 2 field goals on 6 offensive possessions. The offense had gained a mere 130 yards in the first half, a shockingly low output for a unit that had once been among the most explosive and creative in the entire NFL. As the players made their way to the sideline following another unsuccessful drive that had ended in yet another punt, the emotional dam that had been holding back weeks of frustration finally burst in the most unexpected way possible. What happened next was unprecedented in the Reid-Kelce relationship and represented a fundamental shift in the power dynamics that had governed their partnership for over a decade. Instead of Kelce being the one to initiate physical contact, as had been the pattern in previous confrontations, it was Reid who took the aggressive stance. The 67-year-old coach, clearly frustrated with both the team's performance and perhaps Kelce's emotional state, delivered what witnesses described as a firm chest-to-chest bump that nearly knocked the 250-pound tight end off balance. The role reversal was stunning. The coach, who had always been the calming influence, the steady hand that guided the ship through turbulent waters, was now the one providing the physical wake-up call. The incident lasted only seconds, but its impact reverberated far beyond that moment and would continue to influence perceptions of both men for the remainder of the season. Cameras captured every detail with the kind of precision that only modern broadcast technology can provide. Reid's animated gesturing as he delivered his message, Kelce's surprised reaction as he absorbed the unexpected physical contact, the intervention of teammates who recognized the need to de-escalate the situation quickly before it could spiral out of control. What made this confrontation particularly noteworthy was the visible shock on Kelce's face. This was clearly not something he had expected from his longtime coach and father figure. The immediate aftermath saw both men quickly move past the moment, with the professionalism and emotional intelligence that had sustained their partnership through numerous previous challenges. But the damage to their public image, and perhaps to the fundamental dynamic of their relationship, was already done. But to understand why this sideline clash hit so hard, and why it carried so much weight, you have to rewind the clock. Because this wasn't the first time tensions between Kelce and Reid boiled over. In fact, it was just the latest chapter in a long history of explosive moments that have defined their relationship. A pattern of explosions, the history behind the headlines. The story of Reid and Kelce's volatile relationship truly began to capture national attention during Super Bowl LV8 in what would become known as the most infamous sideline confrontation in championship game history, February 11th, 2024 at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. With millions of viewers watching around the world, Kelce delivered a shoulder-to-chest bump that nearly sent the 65-year-old Reid tumbling to the ground. The incident was so shocking, so completely unexpected in the context of the biggest game of the year, that it overshadowed much of the actual gameplay and became an instant viral sensation that sparked nationwide debates about respect, professionalism, and the limits of competitive passion in professional sports. The Super Bowl incident unfolded with stunning intensity, as Reid later explained.
He caught me when I wasn't looking.
I saw that. It's a fumble. That was another turnover.
Yeah, he didn't know
that. Your place sheet.
He didn't know I was going to go that far.
Right.
So he came over and gave me a hug. So sorry about that. But you know what? He just wants to be on the field and he wants to play.
Reid's immediate response to the incident showed his characteristic ability to diffuse tension with humor and understanding, but the underlying issues were far more serious and complex than his lighthearted explanation suggested. The Super Bowl. Confrontation occurred during a particularly frustrating and high-stakes moment for the Chiefs' offense, when the pressure of the biggest stage in professional football was colliding with their inability to execute at their typical championship level. Kelce had managed just one catch for 1 yard in the first half, feeling completely marginalized and underutilized neutralized in the biggest game of the year. For a player who had built his reputation on being Patrick Mahomes' most reliable target in crucial moments, this level of invisibility in the Super Bowl was both professionally frustrating and personally devastating. When running back Isaiah Pacheco fumbled at the 5-yard line during a crucial drive that could have changed the momentum of the entire game, Kelce's frustration finally boiled over in spectacular fashion. The tight end stormed toward Reid, who was focused on his whiteboard and completely absorbed in diagramming the next defensive adjustment, and delivered a blindside shoulder check that sent the coach stumbling forward and nearly falling into other players. The physical contact was jarring enough, but what followed was even more shocking for those who witnessed it firsthand. What followed was a verbal explosion that hot microphones captured in all its raw, unfiltered intensity. Kelce unleashed a torrent of profanities, demanding, "Open up the damn playbook and give me the ball," while gesturing wildly with his hands and invading Reid's personal space. The confrontation lasted nearly 10 seconds, an eternity in the context of a Super Bowl sideline, with teammates Chris Jones and Patrick Mahomes eventually intervening to separate the two men before the situation could escalate further. The image of Kelce, screaming inches from Reid's face, his emotions completely uncontrolled, became one of the defining visuals of the entire Super Bowl, and a moment that would be replayed endlessly in the days and weeks that followed. The aftermath of the Super Bowl incident revealed just how carefully both men had to navigate the public relations nightmare that followed, with millions of fans and media members analyzing every aspect of their behavior. Taylor Swift, watching from a luxury suite alongside friends and family, was visibly distressed by the confrontation, covering her mouth and leaning forward in apparent concern. The incident sparked immediate criticism from former players and analysts across the sports media landscape, with many questioning whether Kelce's behavior had crossed the line from passionate competition into outright disrespect for authority and team hierarchy. Kelce's post-game accountability showed his understanding of the severity of his actions.
I can't get that fired up to the point where I'm bumping coach and it's getting him off balance and stuff. When he stumbled, I was just like, oh, in my head.
Or even, let's be honest, the yelling in his face too is over the top. I think there's better ways to handle this retrospectively.
Yeah, I know. I'm a passionate guy.
His immediate acknowledgement of wrongdoing on his podcast with brother Jason showed a level of self-awareness and emotional intelligence that helped diffuse much of the criticism and demonstrated his understanding of appropriate boundaries. But the Super Bowl incident wasn't the beginning of this pattern of volatile behavior. It was simply the most visible and highly publicized manifestation of a dynamic that had been building and evolving for years. In July 2023, during training camp at Missouri Western State University, Kelce was involved in two separate physical altercations with backup defensive players over consecutive days. These incidents, while less publicized due to their occurrence during closed practice sessions, revealed the same underlying intensity and emotional volatility that would later explode on the Super Bowl stage. The training camp confrontations began with what seemed like a relatively minor disagreement during a red zone drill in the sweltering Missouri heat. Kelce engaged in a shoving match with cornerback DiCaprio Bootle after the rookie defender attempted to strip the ball away following a completion. The physical altercation lasted several seconds and required intervention from teammates, but it was dismissed by many as simply the kind of heated competition that occurs naturally during intense practice sessions. The next day brought an even more serious incident that crossed the line from competitive intensity into potentially dangerous behavior. During another red zone drill, Kelce dropped the ball and unleashed a full-force left-handed punch that connected solidly with linebacker Jack Cochran's helmet. The punch was captured on video by fans attending the open practice and quickly went viral, drawing attention to Kelce's emotional volatility and raising questions about his ability to control his temper even in practice settings. Reid's response to such incidents revealed his philosophical approach to managing volatile personalities.
Yeah, so I love Travis's passion, man. So I'm okay with that. We didn't have enough of it that second quarter. Well, it wasn't where we needed to be. So within reason, he knows. He knows when to back off the pedal and knows when to push it too. So.
His measured response revealed a coach who had long ago accepted that managing Kelce's intensity was simply part of the job description and a necessary component of maximizing his production. Following the punch incident, Kelce took to social media to acknowledge his mistakes and take responsibility for his actions, posting, "Gotta be a better teammate, gotta be a better leader," plain and simple. This pattern of explosive behavior, followed by immediate accountability and self-reflection, would become a recurring theme in the Reid-Kelce relationship, suggesting a level of emotional intelligence that helped explain explain why Reid continued to tolerate and even embrace these outbursts. This pattern extends to Reid's own coaching history and his evolution as a leader of volatile personalities. During his tenure with the Philadelphia Eagles, Reid was known for his tough love approach, including incidents like forcing offensive guard George Hageman to push a 500-pound blocking sled the length of the field in front of the entire team. Reid's willingness to use public humiliation and physical punishment as motivational tools established a precedent for the kind of intense, emotionally charged confrontations that would later characterize his relationship with Kelce. The Hageman incident, which occurred during Reid's first training camp with the Eagles in 1999, involved the coach calmly whistling while forcing the veteran guard to endure a grueling physical punishment in front of teammates, media, and fans. The psychological impact was devastating and immediate. Hageman was released the next day and never played in the NFL again. But it also established Reid's reputation as a coach who demanded absolute accountability from his players and was willing to use extreme measures to enforce his standards. The evolution from the Hageman punishment to the Kelce confrontations reveals how Reid's approach has matured and become more sophisticated over the years, where once he used public humiliation and physical punishment to establish dominance and control, he now engages in what can only be described as emotional negotiations with his star players. The fact that Kelce not only survives these confrontations but often thrives afterward suggests that Reid has learned to harness volatile personalities rather than simply eliminate them. What makes the September 2025 incident so significant within this historical context is that it represents a potential turning point in the fundamental dynamics of the relationship. For the first time in their partnership, it was Reid who initiated the physical contact. Reid who crossed the line from verbal coaching into physical confrontation. Reid who delivered the message through force rather than words. This role reversal suggests that even the most patient and understanding coach in the NFL has limits to his tolerance, and that Kelce's emotional outbursts may be testing those boundaries in ways they never have before. All of this history set the stage for what unfolded in September 2025. But the real question isn't just about what happened in the heat of the moment, it's about what came next. The aftermath revealed just how fragile the balance had become and what this confrontation might mean for the Chiefs' future. The aftermath and what it all means. The immediate aftermath of the September 22nd confrontation between Travis Kelce and Andy Reid revealed a masterclass in crisis management and damage control, but it also exposed the deeper fractures and mounting pressures that may be forming beneath the surface of one of the NFL's most successful and closely scrutinized partnerships. Within hours of the incident, both men were working diligently to control the narrative and minimize the potential fallout, with Reid's post-game press conference setting the tone for how the organization would frame what millions had witnessed on national television. Reid's immediate response demonstrated his characteristic ability to diffuse tension while maintaining authority.
So that's part I love about him. I mean, the guy's all in. You know, just sometimes I have to be the policeman.
But behind the carefully crafted public statements and diplomatic language, there were subtle signs that this latest confrontation had touched on something deeper and more concerning than previous incidents in their turbulent history. Unlike the Super Bowl incident, where Kelce immediately took full accountability and ownership of his behavior, this time there was a notable delay in his public response and a reluctance to engage with media. The tight end avoided direct comment initially, leaving the locker room before reporters arrived and declining interview requests, which was highly unusual for a player who typically embraces media attention and takes pride in his ability to articulate his thoughts and emotions. The broader context of the Chiefs' struggles made this incident particularly concerning for those analyzing the team's championship prospects and long-term sustainability. The Chiefs entered Week 3 as the first defending Super Bowl champions to start 0-2 since the 1999 Denver Broncos, putting them in historically poor company and raising legitimate questions about their ability to maintain their championship standard. The offensive struggles that had triggered the confrontation weren't just temporary growing pains or early season rust. They represented fundamental questions about the team's core identity and their capacity to adapt to the natural evolution that affects all championship organizations. Kelce's individual statistics through the first 3 games painted a concerning picture of a player potentially in decline, with just 10 receptions on 17 targets for 134 yards and only 1 touchdown. These numbers, while still respectable for most tight ends in the league, represented a significant drop-off from the elite, game-changing production that had made him the most dominant player at his position for over a decade. At 36 years old, with the physical demands of playing in the NFL taking an inevitable toll on his body, the questions about his future and his ability to maintain his Hall of Fame level performance were becoming impossible to ignore or dismiss. The timing of the confrontation, coming during what many industry insiders and media members speculated could be Kelce's final season, added an element of poignancy and urgency to the entire situation. With retirement rumors swirling throughout throughout the offseason and his contract set to expire after the 2025 season, every game felt like it could be part of his farewell tour. The idea that his legendary partnership with Reid might end not with championship glory and mutual celebration, but with increasingly frequent sideline confrontations and public displays of frustration was a sobering possibility for Chiefs fans who had grown accustomed to witnessing excellence and championship-level execution. The immediate reactions from within the organization itself provided revealing insights into how the incident was being perceived by those closest to the situation. Patrick Mahomes, typically diplomatic and measured in his public statements, was notably defensive when asked about the incident, emphasizing the love and respect between Reid and Kelce, while acknowledging that such confrontations fire up the whole team. His response suggested that even teammates who had grown accustomed to the volatile dynamic between Reid and Kelce were beginning to feel the strain and pressure of these recurring incidents. What made this particular incident especially significant was its timing within the broader context of Reid's coaching philosophy and his well-documented approach to managing difficult personalities throughout his career. Throughout his tenure in both Philadelphia and Kansas City, Reid has been known for his exceptional ability to manage challenging personalities. From his early days handling stars like Donovan McNabb and Terrell Owens in Philadelphia to his current success with Patrick Mahomes and other high-maintenance players in Kansas City. The fact that he felt compelled to physically confront Kelce suggested that his usual methods of motivation, communication, and behavioral management might be losing their effectiveness or reaching their natural limits. The immediate impact on team performance provided some encouraging insight into how the confrontation affected the locker room dynamic and the players' ability to channel emotional intensity into productive results. The Chiefs managed to rally for a convincing 22-9 victory over the Giants, with significantly improved offensive efficiency and execution in the second half. This suggested that, at least in the short term, the emotional release and intensity provided by the confrontation may have actually benefited the team's focus and performance rather than serving as a distraction or source of division. However, the long-term implications remained unclear and concerning for those analyzing the sustainability of this approach to team management. Sports psychologists and organizational behavior experts noted that while emotional confrontations can sometimes provide short-term motivation and clarity, they can also create lasting resentment, trust issues, and communication breakdowns if not properly managed and resolved. The key question facing the Chiefs organization was whether Reid and Kelce could maintain their historically productive partnership while navigating these increasingly frequent emotional explosions and public displays of frustration. The financial implications of the situation also couldn't be ignored when considering the organization's long-term planning and resource allocation. With Kelce earning approximately $14 million per year and Reid's contract making him one of the highest-paid coaches in the NFL, the organization had significant financial investments in both men. The idea of having to choose between them or dealing with the ongoing disruption and distraction caused by their confrontations represented a potential threat to the team's championship window and competitive positioning within the AFC. What remained abundantly clear to anyone observing the situation was that the September 22nd confrontation represented far more than just another sideline disagreement between a coach and player, and everyone's now asking whether their relationship is damaged beyond repair. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.